Hello, Namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. The India-US trade deal is still in focus. Today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the Indian Parliament. He said India's trade deals are stabilizing the world. We have more clarity on agricultural purchases and the volume of Indian imports from the United States, but there's still confusion on Russian oil. Moscow says it has no reason to believe that India will stop buying oil from them. We'll discuss in detail. Also on the show, one phone call between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump, but two different versions. The Chinese are upset about America's moves on Taiwan. In cricket, it's Pakistan versus the ICC and no prizes for guessing who is losing this match. In Britain, is time running out for Prime Minister Keir Starmer? He's not named in the Epstein files, but he's in trouble because of the latest revelations. Back in India, European cars may not get cheaper after all. We'll tell you why the much talked about price cuts could fall through. In Africa, a shocker from Nigeria. Nearly 200 people have been killed in the latest round of attacks. Plus, what is Bharat Taxi? The new player in India's ride-hailing market. Can it take on Ola and Uber? In Maharashtra, why a 3-hour trip became a 32-hour ordeal. And why Saudi Arabia is issuing pet passports for camels. All this and more coming up. The headlines first. The world's biggest cryptocurrency extends its price slump. Bitcoin traded under $70,000 for the first time since Donald Trump's election victory in November 2024. Bitcoin has fallen sharply in recent weeks as investors pull back from risky assets. Ukraine and Russia swapped more than 300 prisoners after US-mediated talks in Abu Dhabi end without a breakthrough. The Ukrainian president admitted that the negotiations have not been easy. Volodymyr Zelensky called for faster results in the peace process. But Washington says significant work remains in ending the conflict. Russia expels a German diplomat in a retaliatory move. Last month, Berlin had removed a Russian official after accusing him of being a spy handler. Germany had also summoned the Russian ambassador to lodge its protest, but Moscow has rejected the charge, calling it baseless. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan meets his Egyptian counterpart in Cairo. The two leaders sealed several partnership deals. They also put up a united front on regional crises in Iran, Sudan and Gaza. Relations between Cairo and Ankara have thawed after nearly a decade of tensions. And Japan cancels this year's Cherry Blossom Festival in a key city near Mount Fuji. Tokyo says the call was taken amid fears of over-tourism and unruly tourist behavior. Fueled by a weak yen, more than 42 million tourists flocked to Japan in 2025.
Number की economy.
They say the devil is in the details. And if the details are missing, well, then the devil gets to work. That's the problem surrounding India's trade deal with the United States. It was announced all of a sudden on Monday, but after that, there was silence. No details, no clarification. Now the government is trying to correct that. Today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the parliament. He was supposed to speak in the lower house of parliament yesterday, the Lok Sabha, but the house was adjourned amid disruptions. Today, he spoke in the upper house, the Rajya Sabha. And it was quite a long speech. The Prime Minister spoke for more than 1.5 hours. Most of it was aimed at the opposition, but he did speak about the trade situation. Prime Minister Modi said that India's trade deals were stabilizing the world. He also said that they would benefit India's youth, both in cities and in villages.
बड़े-बड़े देश भारत के साथ व्यापारिक संबंध बनाने के लिए बहुत ही आतुर है। यूरोपीय संघ का ट्रेड डील हो, अमेरिका के साथ अभी हुआ जो ट्रेड डील हो, और कल हमारे पीयूष जी ने सदन में विस्तृत जानकारी भी दी है, और पूरा विश्व खुल करके इस ट्रेड डील का तारीफ कर रहा है। और उसमें जब यूरोपियन यूनियन के साथ ट्रेड डील हुआ तो विश्व को एक भरोसा हुआ कि अब वैश्विक स्तर पर स्थिरता की संभावना बढ़ेगी। अमेरिका के साथ ट्रेड डील होने के बाद विश्व को और भरोसा हो गया कि जो स्थिरता की एहसास हो रहा था, अब गति का भी एहसास होने लगा है। अब विश्व के लिए शुभ संकेत। इसका सबसे बड़ा लाभ हमारे देश के नौजवानों को होगा। और जब मैं नौजवान कहता हूं तो उसमें मध्यम वर्ग का भी नौजवान होता है, शहर का नौजवान भी होता है, गांव का नौजवान भी होता है।
This is a timely clarification because Indian farmers were feeling tense. US President Donald Trump claimed that India would buy American farm goods, and this set off alarm bells. Would cheaper American goods flood Indian markets? Would they eat into India's farm income? Well, Prime Minister Modi made things clear. This trade deal will benefit people, not hurt them. That's what he said, and this was not the only clarification. Today, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal briefed the country. He revealed two major details. One, India and the United States will issue a joint statement in 4 to 5 days. After that, Donald Trump will issue an executive order. He will officially cut the tariffs from 50% to 18%. Now, this joint statement is not the final agreement. The final agreement is expected to come by mid-March. And this document will reveal the exact details of the trade deal. What promises did India make? What concessions are being given? And what are we getting in return? That's the first clarification given by Minister Piyush Goyal. Secondly, he addressed the $500 billion promise. Donald Trump said that India would buy US goods worth $500 billion, but the math was not sitting right. $500 billion over a period of 5 years. Current US exports to India are $41 billion a year. Trump is setting a target of $100 billion a year. That's effectively what he's asking for. $100 billion a year is what India will buy from the US, meaning India has to more than double its imports from the United States. At first glance, this looks challenging. How do you take it from 41 to 100 billion? But the Commerce Minister sounded confident. Listen to what he said.
That the fast-paced growth at which India is going ahead in our journey in the Amrit Kal to Viksit Bharat 2047, we will need large volumes of energy, we will need large number of data center equipments, ICT products, and therefore, when we estimated what we will need from the USA, we came to a figure of at least $500 billion. We can clearly see before our eyes as potential that we can procure from the United States of America over the next 5 years. Our aircraft demand alone, orders placed on Boeing and yet to be placed but ready, are nearly $70–80 billion. If you add the engines and other spare parts, it will probably cross $100 billion.
So India is thinking long term. We need to buy energy, machinery and aircraft anyway, so might as well buy from the Americans. It's good that the government is revealing more details because slowly a picture is emerging, a picture of what this deal could look like. But one issue is still pending. On one issue, there's still no clarity, and that is Russian oil. US President Trump says Prime Minister Modi promised to cut off Russian oil purchases. Today, India's Foreign Ministry was asked about this.
Insofar as India's energy security or energy sourcing is concerned, the government has stated publicly on several occasions, including me here, that ensuring the energy security of 1.4 billion Indians is the supreme priority of the government. Diversifying our energy sourcing in keeping with objective market conditions and evolving international dynamics is at the core of our strategy to ensure this. All of India's decisions are taken and will be taken with this in mind.
No confirmation or denial. And what is Russia saying? Well, they say they have no reason to believe that India is changing its approach.
India's position is well known. It has been repeatedly indicated by the Indian leadership both publicly and in talks with Russian colleagues that when it comes to foreign economic cooperation, New Delhi is guided exclusively by its interests and takes sovereign decisions based on commercial feasibility. We have no reason to believe that our Indian friends have reconsidered their approach.
This situation is ripe for confusion. So it is important to stick to the official statements. Until the ministers say it, until we see it on a document, do not jump to conclusions. Because remember, this is a multi-billion-dollar deal. It's a deal between the biggest and the fourth biggest economy in the world. So any confusion or misinformation could rattle the markets. Just look at this report in the Bloomberg. It says India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval visited Washington in September. And look at the details. This report says Doval told the Americans that India would not be bullied by Trump, that if needed, India would wait out the Trump term. Now, this is very blunt language. It's unusually blunt for Indian policymakers. And now we know why. The Indian Foreign Ministry says this whole thing was made up, that Ajit Doval did not even visit Washington in September.
Regarding report by Bloomberg, I would like to say that there is absolutely no basis for that report. No such meeting or no such visit has taken place.
Do you see the problem here? The stakes are too high for speculation and fake news. We need to be patient and measured. Yes, there are some information gaps, but thankfully the government now seems to be working to address that. What's more, we have a timeline. A joint statement should come next week and a full agreement by mid-March. Let's see what those documents reveal. So Trump has a trade agreement with India, but with China, it's a different story. A trade deal with China still eludes President Donald Trump. Last year, they settled on a temporary truce. The US and China suspended some of their harshest tariffs, but only for a period of 1 year. And they agreed to discuss a wider trade deal. But China has not made it easy for Trump. Yesterday, they had a phone call. US President Trump spoke to Chinese President Xi. The call lasted almost 2 hours. They discussed a whole range of issues: Iran, Ukraine, trade, even Trump's upcoming visit to China. They discussed all of it, and Trump was quite upbeat about it. He called it, and I'm quoting, an excellent conversation. But China was less effervescent. Their statement only focused on Taiwan. The Chinese made it sound like that's the only issue that Trump and Xi discussed. Only Taiwan. And their tone was quite sharp. Let me quote from the Chinese statement. Xi emphasized that the Taiwan question is the most important issue in China-India relations, in US-China relations, Taiwan is China's territory, and China must safeguard its own sovereignty and territorial integrity and will never allow Taiwan to be separated, he said. And the United States must handle the issue of arms sales to Taiwan with prudence. That's what Xi Jinping is said to have said. Later, Beijing issued a separate statement, but the tone did not change. Listen to this.
President Xi Jinping emphasized that the Taiwan question is the most important issue in China-US relations. Taiwan is China's territory. China must safeguard its own sovereignty and territorial integrity and will never allow Taiwan to be separated from the motherland. The United States must handle the issue of arms sales to Taiwan with prudence. President Trump said that he understands China's concerns over Taiwan and is willing to continue communication with China and keep the US-China relationship in good shape during his presidency.
The framing is deliberate and forceful. China is unhappy with the US, especially after what happened in December last year. In 2025, the US approved a new arms package, a package for Taiwan. They're giving weapons worth more than $11 billion. Of course, China did not like that, and yesterday Xi Jinping showed his displeasure in the phone call with Trump. What was Trump's response? We do not know. His public statement made no mention of Taiwan. So that's a very significant gap in their versions. Trump may sound optimistic, but there's clearly unresolved tension here. Plus, the competition between Washington and Beijing is intensifying. This week, the US has launched a new initiative. It is building a trade zone for critical minerals. The US State Department hosted a meeting yesterday. Many countries were in attendance: the United Kingdom, the European Union, Japan, India, South Korea, Australia, even Congo. They were all there. Top leaders from these countries were present. India was represented by S. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister. And this is what they discussed: an alternative supply chain for critical minerals. That's what the US is trying to build. These minerals power all modern-day devices, your smartphones, electric vehicles, computer chips, even advanced weapon systems. They all need critical minerals. And as of today, China dominates this sector. China controls the mining and the processing. And the US wants to change that.
We will establish reference prices for critical minerals at each stage of production, pricing that reflects real-world fair market value. We want to eliminate that problem of people flooding into our markets with cheap critical minerals to undercut our domestic manufacturers.
That was US Vice President J.D. Vance. He targeted China without naming it. But what's the plan? How will the US dethrone China? Reports say they are looking to deploy hundreds of billions of dollars. This money will go into mining projects. The idea is to develop multiple projects and to cut reliance on a single supplier, because China has been leveraging its dominance. It has tightened control over rare earth exports. Beijing has introduced new rules for suppliers. They now need government approval to export rare earths. And this shift is deliberate. So the US is working on countermeasures. It is rallying its partners and offering ways to expand rare earth supplies. Not because the Americans are the good guys, but because they cannot do it alone right now. Washington's efforts, make no mistake, are driven by self-interest. Alternative supplies will strengthen America's hand. They will build options for President Trump, and they will give them bargaining power against China. Nonetheless, it's a welcome step for the world. Everyone will benefit if the supply chain is diversified. It will be worth tracking how the US and China play this game, how they manage their differences as the contest heats up. The T20 Cricket World Cup is 2 days away. But off the field, a battle has already started, not between bat and ball, but between lawyers and governments. I'm sure you know about the big controversy. Pakistan has decided to boycott its match against India. Both sides were scheduled to play in Colombo, but this Sunday, Pakistan pulled out. And on paper, they gave no reason, but everyone knows what's going on here. Days before this pullout, another team got dropped, Bangladesh. Bangladesh was replaced by Scotland in the World Cup, and we told you about this. Bangladesh wanted to shift their matches out of India. They wanted to play in Sri Lanka. India and Sri Lanka are co-hosting the tournament. So Bangladesh said, we will play in Sri Lanka. But the ICC refused. The ICC is the International Cricket Council. They dropped Bangladesh and brought in Scotland instead. Pakistan objected to this, and then it decided to boycott its match against India. Yesterday, their Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif confirmed this.
T20 वर्ल्ड कप जो है उस हवाले से हमने बड़ा वाज़ेह स्टैंड लिया है कि हम हिंदुस्तान के ख़िलाफ़ जो मैच है वो हम नहीं खेलेंगे, क्योंकि पाकिस्तान ने कहा कि ये खेल का मैदान है, ये सियासत नहीं है। खेल के मैदान में सियासत बिल्कुल नहीं होनी चाहिए। हमने एक बड़ा सोच समझ के हमने स्टैंड लिया है और इस हवाले से हमें बांग्लादेश के साथ पूरी तरह खड़े होना चाहिए इंशाअल्लाह।
The India-Pakistan match is on the 15th of February. The Indian team will still have to travel to Colombo. They will have to be at the stadium on the day of the match. Only then will they get the 2 free points. Meanwhile, Pakistan gets nothing. But that's the least of their worries. The ICC had warned Pakistan of serious consequences. The immediate one is a lawsuit. The ICC has told Pakistan that the tournament broadcaster may sue them. And it's obvious why. The India-Pakistan match is a cash cow. It's the most watched encounter in any tournament, meaning the ad revenue is massive. Just look at last year's Asia Cup match. A 10-second slot was sold for $18,000. $18,000 for 10 seconds. That's what broadcasters are set to lose. Beyond this lawsuit, there are other consequences too. Pakistan's cricket board could be fined. They may get suspended from the T20 World Cup, and in the worst case scenario, they may even get terminated from the ICC. This is a legal battle I was talking about, because every team's participation is bound by a contract. It's called the Members' Participation Agreement. That's the contract. If you violate it, you will face the music. The question is, how will Pakistan defend itself? Some reports say they will rely on a particular clause in the agreement, the force majeure clause. Let me explain what this is. It's a French term, force majeure. It basically means superior force. In legal terms, it refers to unforeseen circumstances, like war or a natural disaster or a terror attack, something sudden that prevents you from fulfilling your obligation. Reports say this will be Pakistan's defense. But will it fly? The contract does mention government order, the government order as a force majeure, but there are 3 concerns around it. Number 1, the justification itself is weak. Pakistan's under-19 team played in India on Sunday, on the same day when they announced their boycott. So if the World Cup match is not okay, why did the under-19 team play? That's the first concern. Number 2, what if Pakistan qualifies for the knockouts? If they have to face India in the semi-finals or the finals, will they boycott that too? Interestingly, Pakistan is silent about that. Their statement only mentions the group stages. And concern number 3, there is a government overlap in Pakistani cricket. Their board is headed by Pakistan's Home Minister Mohsin Naqvi. So the board cannot play dumb. You see, politics and cricket are closely related in South Asia. Most powerful positions are held by politicians. So in practice, there is no distinction. The board and the government are one and the same. I know Pakistan is portraying this as bullying by the ICC and India, but the fact is the ICC has been impartial. Before the World Cup, Pakistan wanted to play outside India, and the ICC agreed. No questions, no pushback. But this boycott is very different. It is grounded in political convenience and mischief. What's worse, even Bangladesh did not ask for it. A senior Bangladesh cricket board director spoke to the media. Listen to what he said. If the India-Pakistan match does not take place, the entire cricketing world will face financial losses. Even our dividend will decrease. We did not want such losses. So India did not want the boycott. Bangladesh did not want the boycott. The ICC did not want the boycott, which makes you wonder who is acting like a bully here? Who is holding a tournament to ransom? It's Pakistan themselves. Their tactics are as clear as day. Bangladesh will head to polls on the 12th of February. This match is scheduled for the 15th of February. So this so-called boycott is all about sending a political message. It is not about solidarity. It is not about fairness or laws. It is about appeasing Bangladesh's rulers. And this story is not over yet. I'm sure backroom talks are happening right now. Don't be surprised if Pakistan suddenly makes a U-turn closer to the date. It's a tactic their cricket team is also famous for, being consistently inconsistent. Let me start with a blunt question. Can a prime minister fall not because he did something illegal, but because he trusted the wrong man? It's a question that Britain is grappling with. Their Prime Minister Keir Starmer is under pressure thanks to the Epstein files. Starmer is not named in the Epstein files. He is not accused of abuse. He is not accused of taking money. And yet, His leadership is wobbling. His party is furious, and Westminster smells blood. So will it end up taking Keir Starmer's job?
The victims of Epstein have lived with trauma that most of us can barely comprehend. And they've had to relive it again and again. They have seen accountability delayed and too often denied. To them, I want to say this. I am sorry. Sorry for what was done to you. Sorry that so many people with power failed you. Sorry for having believed Mandelson's lies and appointed him. And sorry that even now you're forced to watch this story unfold in public once again.
Now here's the full story. First, the Epstein files. These are documents linked to a convicted sex offender. His name was Jeffrey Epstein. He died in jail. But the documents he left behind have triggered a global storm. The files link America's rich and powerful to Jeffrey Epstein. They expose a network of sex trafficking and abuse. The U.S. Justice Department is investigating this. They've released millions of pages linked to the probe. Many of these documents mention powerful people, politicians, business leaders, and celebrities. And one of those names was Peter Mandelson. He belongs to the UK's Labour Party, that is Keir Starmer's party. Mandelson started in the 1980s. He played a key role in the new Labour movement. He's a party heavyweight, almost like a power broker. He helped build the modern Labour Party. And why is he under pressure? He's under fire, in fact, because documents released last week show emails. Mails that Mandelson wrote to Epstein. Mails in which he calls Jeffrey Epstein his best pal. There's even a picture of him with barely any clothes on, standing with a woman in a bathrobe. But that was not the most damning part. In 2008, during the financial crisis, Mandelson passed on top government secrets to Epstein. We're talking about confidential information. He sold it to Epstein, and in return, he received payments, around $75,000 in total. It's not an extraordinary sum, but that's all that they have been able to trace so far. And it's problematic because this involves the sale of government secrets. Since the release of these emails, Mandelson has quit the party. He's now under police investigation, and the charge is alleged misconduct in office. So where does Keir Starmer come in? Well, here's the key point. Keir Starmer did not inherit Peter Mandelson, he appointed him. Starmer personally chose Mandelson as Britain's ambassador to the United States. It's one of the most sensitive diplomatic jobs in the country, and this week, Keir Starmer admitted something more. He said that he knew that Mandelson had links to Epstein. He knew that Epstein was a convicted sex offender, and yet he appointed Peter Mandelson to the post. Why is that? Keir Starmer says he was misled, that he did not know about the full context of his relationship. So is this a crime? No, it's not. Is it bad judgment? Well, it absolutely is. Keir Starmer knew enough to say no to Peter Mandelson, and yet he chose to say yes.
He portrayed Epstein as someone he barely knew. And when that became clear, and it was not true, I sacked him. Such deceit is incompatible with public service. Let me be clear, no one is above accountability. And no one, however well connected, however experienced, however senior, should hold public office if they cannot meet the basic test of honesty.
And that's what this is about. Keir Starmer is not accused of being in the Epstein files, but his job is under threat because this scandal is not about crime, it is about judgment. Starmer campaigned as the clean alternative and the grown-up, the man who would restore faith in politics. Yet his vetting process looks rushed, his judgment looks compromised, and inside the Labour Party, the knives are out. Some want heads to roll, some want his chief of staff gone, and some are openly questioning whether they will back Starmer in a confidence vote.
It is now up to Labour MPs to do the right thing. I know there are many of them who are horrified by what has happened. We saw that in the House of Commons just yesterday. They might now expect the Prime Minister to take responsibility, but we know he won't. He will have to be dragged out of number 10.
Will this be a case of yet another short-lived UK Prime Minister? It's become an unfortunate trend. British Prime Ministers last less than disposable cups. Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak and now Keir Starmer. Only over a year in office and already fighting to keep his job. It is the season of trade deals. After the European Union and the United States, India is chasing another deal. This time it's with the Gulf nations of West Asia. The talks began today. And as we cheer these efforts and these breakthroughs, it is also important to look at the fine print. Because the big numbers always sound impressive. But as we keep saying, the devil is in the detail. Look at the India-EU trade deal, for instance. It was sealed last month. They called it the mother of all deals.
Prime Minister, distinguished friend, we did it. We delivered the mother of all deals. We are creating a market of 2 billion people. And this is the tale of two giants, the world's second and fourth largest economies. Two giants who choose partnership in a true win-win fashion.
Now, one of the announcements from this deal that stood out was the promise of cheaper European cars, the likes of BMW, Audi and Mercedes-Benz. They will be taxed at a lower rate. It was a major highlight of the deal. It led to a lot of excitement in India and it showed in news headlines and on social media feeds. But now it appears that the euphoria was premature because here's what car makers say. Prices are not coming down anytime soon. Let me explain why. As of today, European cars face a 110% tariff in India. 110% tariff import duty. Once the deal comes into effect, this tariff will fall. First, it will come down to less than 40% and eventually it will drop to 10%. But not all cars will get this relief. There are two conditions. We've told you about this. Two conditions. One, the car should cost more than 15,000 euros. That's close to 18,000 US dollars, more than 16 lakh Indian rupees. They will see a tariff cut. And two, there's a quota of 250,000 cars. Every year, only 250,000 cars will get this tariff relief. The rest will face the high tariff.
It's going to cut out a lot of tariffs that are now imposed on EU imports to India and, of course, Indian exports to the EU. Some notable ones are, for instance, that tariffs on cars being exported from the EU are going to be cut from about 110%, as it is today, down to 10% on a quota of 250,000 cars in India.
That's what the deal says, and it sounds good on paper. 250,000 cars beyond a certain price point will become cheaper in India. That's good, right? But dig deeper and you'll see the problem. Let's go back to the 110% tariff. Do you know which cars does this tariff apply to? 110% tariff is for CBUs. Completely built units, CBUs. In simple words, these are cars manufactured overseas. They're completely built outside India and then they're imported as finished products. The 110% duty applies only to these cars. And they are the only ones that will see a tariff reduction. Next question. What kind of cars do European manufacturers usually sell in India? Well, most of them are assembled locally, meaning the parts are imported, but the final assembly happens here in a factory based in India. The auto industry has a name for such cars. They are called CKDs, completely knocked down units. And 90% of all European cars sold in India are CKDs. They're all assembled here, 90% of the cars. They attract a tariff of only 16 to 17%. This is the tariff on the imported parts. So will these assembled European cars get a tariff relief under the trade deal? Honestly, we don't know. That part is still unclear, although some car makers have expressed doubts, like Mercedes-Benz. The head of their India unit has spoken about this. He says he does not see any price reduction in the near future. In fact, let me quote from the statement. With more than 90% of Mercedes-Benz India's sales volume comprising made in India, locally manufactured models, we do not foresee any price reduction for Mercedes-Benz vehicles from the FTA in the foreseeable future. Same for Audi. Here's what the head of Audi India has said. It would be premature to draw conclusions. Simply put, there is no promise of a price cut. So if you're planning to buy one of these cars, a Mercedes, an Audi or a BMW, and you're waiting for the new tariffs to kick in the hope of a cheaper car, we say don't wait. Chances are the prices will not come down. Having said that, the market is still opening up. Soon after the trade deal was announced, India lowered tariffs for certain high-end cars. The duty was cut sharply from 110% to 30%. This applies to a specific category of vehicles, cars priced between 35,000 and 50,000 euros. They will be charged a 30% duty. But imports are capped at 33,000 units per year, so lower taxes for a certain number of cars that cost between 35 to 55 lakh Indian rupees. Similarly, for cars priced above 50,000 euros or 55 lakh rupees, the import duty has been slashed to 30%. These imports will also be capped at 33,000. Now, this price bracket covers high-end cars, ultra-luxury models of brands like Mercedes, BMW and Audi, which are not assembled in India and not sold here in high numbers. It also applies to supercars, brands like Lamborghini and Ferrari. These vehicles are still not assembled locally, and they might see some price cuts. So this is not the big bang reform or price cut that many had hoped for. It's not like Indian roads will fill up with Mercedes and BMW cars. It is just a beginning. It's also, more importantly, a reminder that trade deals can unlock opportunities. They can create the right conditions for businesses. But what happens after that depends on industry choices, on whether they are willing to take the plunge. I guess that is the real test for any trade agreement. In Nigeria, there's been another deadly attack. Nearly 200 people have been killed. It's the worst that the country has seen in recent months. Entire villages have been torn apart, homes have been razed, and families have been wiped out. What's worse, this attack is a part of a wider pattern. Armed groups are expanding their reach in Nigeria. Criminal gangs and extremists are working together, and it comes at a time when Nigeria is under growing international scrutiny. The United States is stepping up its involvement in this region. Last year on Christmas, the US conducted air strikes in Nigeria. President Donald Trump said that Christians were under threat and that Nigeria's leadership was failing to protect them. Our next report has more.
Nigeria has been hit by one of its deadliest attacks in recent months. Gunmen stormed 2 villages. They struck on Tuesday evening. The targets were Woro and Nuku. Both are in Kwara State. This is western Nigeria. The death toll is severe. A local lawmaker said at least 162 people were killed. But many claim the actual casualty count is much higher. Homes were burned, shops were looted, and entire communities have been left devastated. The scale of the violence has shocked the country. But it did not come out of nowhere. Nigeria is facing overlapping security crises. The country is battling multiple threats at once: Islamic militant insurgencies and criminal gangs, kidnappings for ransom, armed raids on villages. For years, so-called bandits operated mainly in northwestern Nigeria, but that is changing. These groups are moving into new regions, including Kwara State. Several extremist groups are active in Nigeria. The most notorious is Boko Haram. It emerged in 2009. Its aim was to fight Western education and impose its version of Islamic law. Just last week, Boko Haram killed at least 36 people. Those attacks happened in northeastern Nigeria. Other groups are also operating. Some are linked to the Islamic State. One is the Islamic State West Africa Province. Another is the Islamic State Sahel Province. It is known locally as Lakurawa. Lakurawa has been especially active in the northwest. These attacks come at a sensitive moment. International attention is growing, especially from the United States. In recent days, the United States has intensified its response. Earlier this week, the head of U.S. Africa Command confirmed a new deployment. A small team of U.S. military officers has been sent to Nigeria. The deployment came at Nigeria's request. Its focus is intelligence support. The move follows earlier tensions. In recent months, Nigeria has been under diplomatic pressure from Washington. U.S. President Donald Trump had accused Nigeria of failing to protect Christian citizens. Those comments caused strain. But analysts say the reality is more complex. Christians have been targeted, but most victims are Muslims, especially in the north, where most attacks occur. Diplomatic tensions have since eased. They have shifted into cooperation. In December, U.S. forces carried out airstrikes in Nigeria. The targets were militants linked to the Islamic State. Last month, Nigeria's government announced another step. The United States pledged to deliver long-pending military equipment. This includes drones and helicopters. Some of this equipment had been delayed for years. The delays were linked to human rights concerns about Nigeria's security forces. Now, the focus is on containment and prevention. But the challenges remain severe. Nigeria's military is overstretched. Threats are spreading geographically, and civilian communities remain exposed. The attacks in Woro and Nuku underscore that reality. They show how fragile security has become and how deadly the consequences are. For now, no arrests have been announced. No clear claim of responsibility has emerged. What remains are the bodies, the destruction, and unanswered questions about how to stop the next attack.
Let's turn to India now, where an unprecedented taxi experiment is underway. A driver-owned, driver-operated and driver-led taxi service. Basically, a cooperative taxi service. It's called Bharat Taxi. Today, its mobile application was unveiled by Home Minister Amit Shah. He laid out a grand vision for this service.
अगर मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि 3 साल के अंदर कश्मीर से कन्याकुमारी और द्वारिका से कामाख्या तक पूरे देश भर में ये सहकार टैक्सी हमारे टैक्सी सारथियों के कल्याण का एक बहुत बड़ा माध्यम बनने जा रही है और शायद पूरे विश्व में एक ऐसी अनूठी टैक्सी कंपनी, एक कोऑपरेटिव अस्तित्व में आ रही है जिसका मालिक टैक्सी चलाने वाला सारथी है, कोई कंपनी नहीं।
It works like your Uber or Ola. You open the app, you book a ride and the vehicle comes. But there's one crucial difference. Ola and Uber are private companies. Bharat Taxi is a cooperative undertaking, sort of like an Amul for taxis. And here's how it works. Drivers download the Bharat Taxi app. They buy a minimum of 5 shares, which is worth 500 rupees. They're verified and onboarded. And finally, they start taking rides. That's the big headline here. This initiative is not owned by companies or the government. It is owned by the drivers themselves. Whatever the profit, it is shared among the drivers. Last year, this project was piloted in Delhi and Gujarat. By 2029, it will be operational across India. As of now, more than 300,000 drivers have signed up. They're completing 10,000 rides per day, which is not a bad start for just 2 locations. But what is the ultimate vision? Why should drivers and customers shift from Ola or Uber to Bharat Taxi? For drivers, there is no commission. Ola and Uber charge between 30 and 40% as commission. It takes away a big chunk of the driver's revenue, but Bharat Taxi has none, no commission. The drivers only have to pay a subscription fee, which is 30 rupees per day for cars and 18 rupees per day for rickshaws. That's a big selling point for the drivers. As for the consumers, there are two selling points. One, there is no surge pricing. Whatever the demand, the price will remain the same. And two, rides should cost less on paper. There are no commissions or so-called handling fees. So rides should be up to 30% cheaper. Which raises the main question. Will this Bharat Taxi experiment succeed? Well, cooperatives have a proven track record in India, like Amul for milk and IFCO and Cribco for fertilizers. But can Bharat Taxi replicate that? There are two factors that will work in their favor. Number one, government support. The Home Minister sounded quite optimistic today. If he invests enough political capital, Bharat Taxi will benefit. And number two, the market potential. India's taxi market is valued at $21 billion. It is projected to reach $44 billion by 2032. As more Indians move to cities and towns, this market will grow. If Bharat Taxi is efficient, they can cash in. Which brings us to the challenges. There are three main challenges. The first is technology. Uber and Ola have perfected their applications. They're simple, efficient, well integrated. You can link your UPI, your card, your digital wallet, anything. Bharat Taxi will have to match that. Secondly, they must offer the lowest price. That's the promise on Bharat Taxi's website, and that's also the challenge. You see, despite surge charges and commissions, Uber and Ola are running losses. Uber India reported losses worth 89 crore rupees last year. Ola reported losses worth 10 crores. These losses are covered by massive foreign investors and they have the pockets to be patient. But Bharat Taxi, well, they won't have that luxury. If turning a profit means more expensive rides, this experiment will fail. Which brings us to the final challenge, and that is availability. This is a game of quick turnarounds. When I open Ola or Uber, I expect a quick ride. I expect a driver to be nearby, which means Bharat Taxi will have to onboard many more partners. If not, customers will shift away. So a lot depends on how Bharat Taxi is run. On paper, this is an idea that should work. More benefits for drivers and cheaper rides for customers. It should work. But in the real world, those assumptions do not always play out. So we'll have to wait and see if Bharat Taxi can buck the trend. The Mumbai-Pune Expressway is one of the busiest expressways in India. Cars, buses, trucks, families heading home, workers commuting and tourists chasing a quick getaway. Millions use this expressway every year. It's a drive that should take a little more than 3 hours. But for commuters this week, it took nearly 32 hours. 32. A 3-hour drive took 32 hours. They were stuck on the expressway with no food, no water, no toilets. Some drivers even fell asleep at the wheel. So what led to this? And it also raises a bigger question. Why are our fastest roads still bringing traffic to a complete standstill? Our next report tells you.
6 lanes, concrete roads. This is a drive that's supposed to take 3 hours. But suddenly, it lasted 32 hours. No toilets, no water, and no food. This isn't a dystopian movie. This was the Mumbai-Pune Expressway this week. It started on Tuesday evening around 5:15 p.m. in the Khandala Ghat section near the Adoshi tunnel. A tanker carrying highly flammable propylene gas loses control on a downward slope. It overturned and gas starts leaking. One spark, and you're talking about a major explosion. So authorities shut down the entire road. And just like that, one of India's busiest expressways turned into a parking lot.
We have been stuck since afternoon in Pune itself. There has been no information from the police at all, proper information regarding the traffic situation, what's going on over there, what has happened, and what precautions we should be taking ahead. Should we travel further or not? None of the information was given to us. So we started our journey again in the morning. We came to the toll. Even they are not even stopping us before the toll as well. They are deducting the tolls and sending us ahead to get stuck over there again. So this is the situation over here. We have got stuck again.
Soon it was a nightmare. On an average day, 1 lakh vehicles used the Mumbai-Pune Expressway. Once traffic stopped, there was nowhere to go. No exits, no service lanes, and no space to turn around. Within hours, the jam stretched 20 to 22 kilometers. People rationed water. They skipped meals. Elderly passengers complained of dehydration and anxiety. Children spent the night inside cars. Some drivers literally fell asleep at the wheel when traffic finally restarted. Police had to knock on windows at 2 a.m. to wake people up and move traffic. So why did it take 32 hours? Because removing a leaking gas tanker is not like towing a broken car. One wrong move could have triggered disaster. Gas had to be slowly transferred, safely neutralized, and only then could cranes move the tanker. Public safety came first, but the cost was paid by commuters. And this isn't just a Pune-Mumbai story. Because this exact story is playing out across India. Let's jump 1,500 kilometers north to Manali. Commuters traveled 15 kilometers in 10 hours. Tourists were stuck overnight in sub-zero temperatures. People abandoned vehicles and walked downhill on ice. Why? Because everyone wanted snowfall at the same time on the same 2-lane mountain road. But haven't we built more roads? Yes, and here's the irony. India now has the second largest highway network in the world. Over 1.46 lakh kilometers of national highways, from 6-lane corridors, expressways to smart highways. But here's the catch. More roads don't automatically mean less traffic. Because while roads expanded, vehicles exploded. India now has over 300 million registered vehicles, and traffic doesn't spread evenly. It piles up in cities, corridors, tourist hotspots. An average Indian in a major city spends 100 to 170 hours every year stuck in traffic. That's 4 to 7 full working days. Right now, there are 3 big problems. 1. We react after disaster strikes, not before. There are no quick diversion plans or emergency holding zones. Not even basic facilities for stranded commuters. 2. We treat highways like magic solutions, but forget last-mile planning, exits, public transport links. And 3. We underestimate crowd behavior. So what's the solution? There's no single fix, but there are clear lessons, like emergency protocols for expressways, portable toilets, water tankers, food access, and stricter movement controls during peak tourist rush are some things we can start with. Because India is building faster than ever. But unless we learn to move smarter, we'll keep spending our lives staring at brake lights.
Are you tired of documents, tired of passport checks, tired of being asked for verification? Well, you're not alone. In Saudi Arabia, even camels are now dealing with paperwork. I know this is not a joke. The kingdom is issuing camel passports to its animals. Saudi Arabia has around 2.2 million camels. All of them will now be digitally registered. And what's the reason behind this? Also, do other countries have similar pet passports? Our next report tells you.
If you are a camel in Saudi Arabia, it is time to get your papers in order. Because the kingdom is introducing passports for the animal. Yes, you heard that right. Camel passports. Saudi Arabia has officially launched pet passports for the country's camel population, estimated at around 2.2 million animals. The announcement came straight from the Saudi government. The passport is part of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 plan, the same grand makeover project that brought us futuristic cities, megatourism, and a massive economic pivot away from oil. And now, it's time for bureaucracy for camels. So, what is a camel passport? Let's clear one thing up. This is not about camels flying business class to Paris. This passport is an official identification document, basically a birth certificate, medical file, and ownership proof rolled into one. Each passport includes a microchip number embedded inside the camel, a unique passport ID, the camel's name, date and place of birth, breed, sex, color, photos from both left and right sides, a full vaccination and health record, and details of the issuing authority. In short, if you lose a camel, fake a camel, sell a camel, or inject something illegal into a camel, the system will know. But why would a camel need this? In Saudi Arabia, camels are not just animals. They are symbols of heritage, markers of social status, and, most importantly, big business. Camel breeding is a multi-million-dollar industry. Some camels are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Over the past few years, Saudi authorities noticed something suspicious. Camels showing up with enhanced lips, altered jaws, and Botox-style tweaks. Basically, camel cosmetic surgery. Authorities cracked down hard, but policing this was messy. So the solution? Track every camel, digitally, from birth. Saudi Arabia wants a central database of all camels. It will be linked to genetic data, monitored for disease outbreaks, and ready for international trade. And it's part of Saudi Arabia's 2030 vision. Camels tick every box: deep cultural roots, strong domestic demand, growing global curiosity, and huge money potential. A passport gives Saudi camels international legitimacy. But do other animals have similar passports? Actually, yes. Pet passports already exist across the world. For example, dogs, cats, ferrets in Europe get EU pet passports. These include microchips, rabies shots, and vet certification. The UK now requires animal health certificates post-Brexit. The US mandates vaccination records and CDC forms. Australia and New Zealand demand months of quarantine prep. So Saudi Arabia didn't invent animal paperwork. What's new is doing this for livestock at scale. So Riyadh is getting its camels ready for the global market. Camels once moved freely across deserts. Now they move through databases. But the message from Saudi Arabia is simple. If it has value, it gets regulated, even if it has humps.
There are two kinds of social media accounts. One cares deeply about its image, the other simply cannot be bothered. Let me introduce the second kind. It's the official X handle of Iceland's cricket board. Yes, Iceland has a cricket board, and guess what? The account's operator has a mean streak. They're known to weigh in on serious political and sporting issues, and this latest Pakistan ICC row has been comedic gold for them. Take a look.
Oh, hell no! Mentira! Emotional damage! Mentira!
Pew, 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 pew.
Huh?
And now in it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. A dancing robot becomes the main attraction at the China House in Milan. A rare phantom jellyfish the size of a school bus was spotted in Argentina's deep sea, and videos from the International Space Station show rippling auroras. Finally, we are taking you back in history. On this day in 1907, the world's first synthetic plastic was invented. It was called Bakelite. This ushered the age of plastic. It was used to make everything from jewelry to washing machines. We are leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Power doesn't end quietly. Some deaths are not accidents. They are messages. A gunshot. A crowd. A country frozen. The killer disappears. The questions don't. This is not just about who died. It's about what followed. Governments fell. Armies moved. History rewrote itself. 5 leaders, 5 moments, 1 pattern, the assassination.